Thank you for joining us for another episode of That Solo Life, the podcast about PR pros and marketers who work for themselves. I am Michelle Kane. My company is Voice Matters, and I am joined as always by my wonderful co-host, Karen Swim of Solo PR Pro, group that brings all of us solos together. Hi, Karen. How are you today?
Hi, Michelle. I am doing as well as can be expected in these crazy times.
Yes.
How are you doing?
Yes. I like crazy times, you think pandemic, great. Now we've got this great social justice movement, which honestly is, I love that it's happening. It's so surreal because, we've been so trained that, these things happen and then we all forget. And I join everyone with the feeling that, no, I don't think so. It's different this time. So I'm kind of excited.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's funny because it feels like 2020 just the hits keep on coming. There's no shortage of challenges this year.
Right.
There are some great things happening too. So it's kind of a surreal year. And I, like everyone, I think that I still, day to day grapple with, oh my God, it's, June, whatever it is. I think it's the 10th. Oh my God, it's June 10th already. But at the same time, like, oh my God, it's only June. Like, is this year not over yet? Is it not over? Could it be over?
Yeah. And also when that calendar does turn, if the year could acknowledge that, we'll just keep everything in this year.
Yeah, that would be great. Like,
Yeah.
can we just close it up, lock it away like Pandora's box, never to reopen again?
I think that would be excellent. Let's try and get everything done in this year.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, in so many ways, I thought that it's the bad things that are happening are not good. However, the concept of a reset and really appreciating what we have and appreciating the problems we have to solve, I think that's been a positive.
I agree.
Next time, yeah, like next time I go to the beach, I won't be like, yeah, I'm at the beach, whatever. All the way to, it pulling the curtain back on so many societal things that we've just gone about. It's kind of like we deal with when we do client work, right? It's well, we've always done it this way syndrome. And especially in our modern lives, we're so accustomed to comfort and routine, and we're really being shaken up. And I think, as we always do, looking for the positive opportunities and, how can we contribute to making things better? So, so today we do it.
Yeah, it's a really interesting time from a public relations perspective because as a PR professional, we have seen, this period of time, at the start of COVID where we were all deluged with the responsibilities of messaging through COVID.
Right.
And that required us to, quickly go into action, activate crisis plans, ensure that our clients were prepared. And there was this flood of messaging around COVID-19. And that almost feels like a whole lifetime ago, but it was really mere months ago.
Right.
And so, we saw all of that activity as we really looked at the landscape, tried to understand what we really needed to be prepared for, looking, to history for some examples for us to follow, and really plotting the way forward and doing that messaging. And that was intense over a short period of time.
Right.
And now we find ourselves, and during that time, we learned some lessons, like what to say, what not to say. We saw, great examples. We saw terrible examples. We saw cookie cutter messages that made us cringe and, everything in between. And now we find ourselves just a few short months later with these social justice issues causing us to spring into action all over again with the same decision points that we made for COVID. And we're seeing all of the old things that people used to think. So, for example, for a long period of time, brands thought it best to stay out of social justice and political issues. And so the safe stance was to go dark on social and to remain neutral. That wasn't true in COVID, because for the people who didn't say anything, everyone took issue with it.
Right.
And it's very true of social justice that silence speaks volumes. And so those long held traditions, as PR professionals, we first of all had to challenge them with the companies that we work for, where there may be CEOs that come from the old school, and really educating them, but also knowing the right thing to say and not jumping into the conversation without having some real action to put behind it. So it really has just been a kind of an opportunity from the PR side for us to really shine and to really provide strategic counsel, but it's also forced us all to look at things through a different lens.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's really bringing to the fore that we need to have this conversation. And, brings to mind the whole concept of corporate responsibility. Don't just say something to be placating. Say something because you actually have something to say. You have some action behind it, or, you're going to be part of the conversation, not just, it's not just like, oh, well, we wish everyone a very happy holiday. No, it's not your standard issue. Like you said, cookie cutter messaging.
And it's unfortunate that both of us and many in our community have seen that exact thing happen. We have seen the cookie cutter statements, and those statements have been ripped to shreds, because if you're an organization that has done nothing to diversify your organization, to ensure that you're being inclusive, you have no real muscle, but you're putting out a statement saying that you feel terrible, people are sort of over that, and those people are your audience. Those are the people that are going to buy your products and services. And so it's really a time to really think about what is happening in our culture right now, and how can you honestly be a positive part of this? How can you make an impact? And that's caused a lot of organizations to look really deep and to see some things. Now, I've also seen some people that have stepped up and tried to take positive action, and it has completely backfired because they didn't have a system to support it. So a good example would be you open up to some type of internal, town hall with your employees because you realize, oh my God, these are these issues. And maybe you're a largely white organization, but you don't involve people of color in planning this time to talk. It's a disaster waiting to happen.
Oh, yes.
So I've seen that as well, or I've seen, internal statements issued where you once again issued it from a position of ignorance and didn't involve people, or brands that wanted to make public statements and they wanted to collaborate with other companies of color, but rather than an actual collaboration, you handed them a statement and wanted them to just participate in it, but there's no real discussion. There is no real collaboration. And you're doing the very thing that people are angry about, not including people of color in decisions.
Exactly. There's no there. And, I can appreciate, and maybe I don't want to qualify it, some of those instances that might be like, they might be saying, look, we don't want to say the wrong thing. It's a hard conversation to have, but when it's so glaringly obvious that you're just pandering and continuing the same empty, empty actions, then no, up your game. Or rather, let's flip that. Acknowledge, hey, we realize we've got diversity issues. So, we're going to work on this. Or don't even say that. Work on them and then talk about it. It's like,
I completely agree.
It's like,
I completely
stepping forward to saying, I don't really have anything constructive to say except that, yeah, okay, bye. No. And,
well, it's kind of interesting because I saw this very thoughtful piece, and I so apologize that I cannot remember what publication because I've been reading voraciously, but it was from the media perspective. It's on my Twitter feed, and I'm so sorry. If we can find it before this is published, we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll put it
so there was one journalist interviewing another journalist, and they were talking about this, how the role of the media, like getting real, about what your role as a journalist is. And not just, there's no such thing as just the facts. It's all going to come from a perspective. And so the challenge is, making sure that you're balancing that perspective, but that they were, saying, yeah, we need to be activists. And yes, we have to advocate for things. And I think as PR professionals, we also in this time period are being challenged to not only provide strategic guidance and sort of the business as usual things that we do. It's not just about crisis preparation, but it's also having hard conversations about what is happening. And for some PR counselors, that's also unfamiliar to you.
Right.
I don't want to sugarcoat that these are issues that you may not be comfortable talking about or having had conversations about. And it means reaching out to other colleagues and trying to find an understanding, educating yourself so that you can provide counsel to your clients. And so I believe that we are also stepping into new roles and that the rules have now completely changed for all of us.
It's about allyship, right? Because, in so many instances, as a white person, I'm like, well, how can I help? What do I say? Should I say, what's going to bring the most constructive activity and not, stoke pain and, or even, Karen, I can't say from your point of view, but my guess might be, it's like, ugh, stop bringing it up. So, I don't know, you just, it's,
and,
it's almost like a cancer on our society, because even sometimes when a friend's really ill or something, you're like, I don't want to say the wrong thing, so maybe I won't say anything. But I think we just have to own that, because out of that becomes the honesty and, vulnerability of saying, I don't know what I don't know. So please call me on that. In fact, I did say that to a friend when she was, ill, and I said, just tell me when I'm annoying you, when I'm being a bad friend. Because that's the only way we learn. We have to learn from each other what we don't know. And that's the only way through this, and to acknowledge that both personally and corporately to get to where we need to be.
Yes. And, I have also counseled brands and counsel people that are not my client because, quite frankly, I said this to someone the other day. I said, I now have a third job, and it's called Being Black in America.
Yeah, right. You didn't sign up for that job.
Really like, and I've always been Black in America. And please, everyone know that, I am someone that sometimes deals with life with a little bit of humor and sarcasm. And so I don't mean that in an offensive way, but honestly, between obviously advocating for these issues that are near and dear to me and leaning into this momentum and doing my part to continue to drive the change, because I am hopeful that this time is different. It's very different. And I feel like people are listening and joining this conversation. But I lost my train of thought of why I was saying that. But as a person of color, this has been a very painful time. And I'm not ashamed to admit that last week, even as we were taping the podcast, my head was so filled with so many other thoughts and so overwhelmed by what is happening in society. I really needed time to process my hurt, my anger. I needed time to mourn. I needed time to act. And I really, even as solo PR pro, I just was not able to sit down and articulate this moment because it was a lot for me to unpack as well. And these events opened up things and caused me to really reflect on my own history and experiences and things that I hadn't talked about really publicly because, as someone of color in this country, you have all these coping skills. You have these micro adjustments that you make and they almost become, or not almost, you normalize them. It just becomes what you do. Because otherwise, you would walk around angry all the time. And that's not a place that I want to be either. So you adjust and you adjust and you adjust and you do this all the time. It's like, okay, don't walk down that block. Okay, don't do this. Oh, okay, here's how we're going to handle this. And so I believe that this is a common experience for people of color in this country and that we've normalized these things. And as all of this has come to the forefront, I grappled with why have I normalized these things? And now is a time that I should be talking about those things and rejecting the norms that I've even set for myself. Let other people adjust. It's not my job to make everyone feel safe just because I have this skin color.
Right.
That's not fair to me. Like, no. I should be able to live my life too. And other people that have the privilege of moving throughout this world without these same challenges and barriers, it's not my job to make them feel okay about it.
No.
So, I think one of the things that you said that's so important, though, is that our conversations are going to be imperfect on every side. I don't care what color you are. Just because I'm a person of color does not make me an expert on handling these issues in a public forum. And so I believe that we all need to be respectful and have grace, because the important thing is having the conversation. And when people are willing to enter into the discussion, when they're trying to seek understanding, I said, for me, this is something that I've been dealing with for decades, but for other people, this may be their day one. This is day one that they have had these conversations. Their eyes are just being opened. And so I do feel a responsibility to say, it's okay. You can't just walk into this discussion and have the expertise and maturity around this issue that I have because I've lived it for all of these years. And it's not fair for me to burden you with that. And so I do believe that it's a time where we all have to, have a little patience and understand that, by the way, we've also had a very challenging year that's impacted many of us personally. So this whole pandemic thing did not go away.
Right.
It still exists. We've all been stressed from that. Some people have had their livelihoods impacted. And now we have all these other issues that have been ongoing that have come to a head. And so it's a very stressful, tense time. And I think that we all have to just take a deep breath and lean into our humanity and welcome even the imperfect discussions and imperfect participation to some degree.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And, like you said, with your third job, it's not your job to educate everyone that comes, it's like, oh, so can you tell me about that? No, open a book. Like Google things, go on the internet. We were slowly realizing that there's a lot of history across the country, that wasn't taught or wasn't known, or, if you haven't had an experience, then go seek out people that are different from you and speak to them. And just honestly, I think I think a lot of times the people don't perceive the bubbles that they're in, and I'm not saying that I'm, outside of that too. It's time to inspect our hearts and minds, and I think it's. I was talking to a friend, being a Gen Xer, it was kind of a selfish thought of, to long for the times when we could sit and watch the Amnesty International concerts and feel like we're fixing the world when we know injustice was still under our own nose. It's like I'm grateful to that movement of the mid to late 80s because it attuned me to things. That was very helpful in ways, and it's the fact that I'm privileged to say the fact that it's happening makes me nuts, but I don't have to live it, and does that make me more nuts? Maybe, I don't know.
It's true. This is a time where, and I think the hope for me is that, the anger is going to subside. The emotions are going to subside, but I truly hope that our commitment, because, this is not an issue that's going to get fixed overnight. It just isn't. It's going to take time and it's going to take work. And guess what? We're going to disagree on the solutions. I think that's the other thing, but we can't get caught up in the anger and planting our stake in the ground and saying, well, this is the way that you solve it. We have to work together to make those solutions. And guess what? Everyone's not going to agree with the way that we solve it, but let's just work together to get it solved. Let's finally change some things and see a forward momentum that this doesn't fizzle out and everybody sort of goes back to their respective lives and forgets that this issue still continues and we still need to address it. But it means that we have to roll up our sleeves and do the work.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Another interesting thing during this time is that I've seen a lot, we see this all the time when a crisis happens and something goes wrong, everyone wants to frame it as a PR issue. And I saw some comments around the head of CrossFit who has now stepped down.
Oh, yeah.
About his remarks being a lack of having PR counsel. And, I don't agree with that. Not everything, and I've said this in the past, not everything is a PR problem. When somebody makes an idiotic statement, and I, don't know this man well enough to label him as a racist, and many around him have said might be a lunatic, but not a racist. Stupid things are not a lack of PR counsel because those people have the same thoughts and would say the same things. That's not a PR issue. That's a heart issue for them. It's a not being able to control their mouth issue. And even with counsel, people like that will tend to go off the rails anyway.
Yeah, he doesn't strike me as the kind of person who would listen to counsel to begin with.
Doesn't quite seem like it, as I started to, get way too deep into the CrossFit story and all of the things that happened in it seems like a 2-day period, like all of these events happened. There was a Zoom call where things were said, and then that was recorded and the recording was shared. And then there was a letter from an affiliate, and then there was the tweet. And it's like, this was like the worst. This was the worst disaster ever. So I also think as PR professionals that our roles are challenging in this time in separating what's truly a PR issue and what's truly not, and educating around that and helping clients to navigate. I mean, the same things are true. Is that we all have worked with brands, maybe, our own employers, where you had the uncontrollable executive, the executive that would not take counsel even when it was offered. And I think we see this in another way. And I don't want to give that example because I'm not trying to divide our audience, but we've all seen it. We've all dealt with those personality types that will not listen to counsel.
Right.
But when it comes to the social justice issue, here's the important thing in my mind is that it's not just about, again, having your brand's executives say the right thing publicly. It's about impacting the way that they think. So it's really getting them to do and think the right things. It's not so much about what happens in the public eye, but what's going on behind the scenes, because just because they don't say it publicly, even if you can control that, but do they still think it privately?
Right.
Are they acting in a way that is not okay? Are they divisive? Are they exclusive? Are they, maybe not racist, but I think our goal is to move more people to be anti-racism,
right.
and not just be a passive, I'm not a racist.
Right.
And so that's tough. We have a tough road ahead of us in addressing those things. And as PR counselors, I do feel that we have a responsibility to do more than check a D&I box by having a D&I person or a committee, but really ensuring that as we're designing campaigns and as we are providing strategic counsel, that it is inclusive, that it is not viewed through a lens of whiteness only, but that is, we ignore, for example, when we do media outreach, how many of us outreach to Black publications or Latinx publications or alternative publications? And they shouldn't even be called alternative because it's part of the media mainstream.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're so
How
right.
many of us limit ourselves to publications that skew to one audience, and we fully ignore every other population?
Yeah. It just makes from a common sense perspective, it makes no sense. I mean, and even the demographics of our entire country are shifting,
Yes.
And so Caucasians, we are going to be in the minority, and I don't care. Like, I'm excited. I love to, I'm going to sound like little Susie Sunshine. I love diversity. I want to learn about, that's your point of view. That's really cool. Okay. It's kind of like collaboration. What can we learn from each other to make things better, to make things good? Why not?
And I think the real thing that we miss, and it's something that I'd encourage you all to go back to the Solo PR Pro blog and read our post for Blackout Tuesday that actually had a really great TED Talk video. I think that the message that we all need to internalize is that racism is not a race issue. So it's not an issue that is owned and only impacts those that are being affected. It really impacts our world. It even impacts the person who has racist views, because they are carrying into the world that anxiety and that fear of other cultures. There's a cost to that.
Yeah.
And there's an economic cost to all of us. And so I think as we address this issue, we have to change our mind about it in thinking it's a Black problem, or it's a Latino problem or whatever. It's not. This is not a race issue. It's a humanity issue. And when we work together to erase or at least confront those biases, because we all have biases, and understand that we do have them. So that means that we have to be aware of them and be willing to open our minds to see things through different perspectives and invite other voices to the table. It improves everything for everyone.
Yes, exactly. I just, all this operating out of fear. I don't, it's hard. I know it's hard for me to comprehend, it's like, what are you so afraid of? Ooh, a new idea. Oh no, scary. Yeah. I don't know.
It is. Yeah. And here is our moment, I feel.
Oh yeah.
That let's face it, I'm not, I love to be Susie Sunshine too, but I'm optimistic enough to believe that a big swath of our population is actually going to move forward with us. But I also know that there will be people that will not change their attitudes and behaviors. And you know what? That's okay.
Yeah.
We don't need the whole world to change. We just need enough people to change that we can together change the system.
Right. Exactly. Because even some of the things that are suggested, from the law enforcement point of view, it's common sense things. Like with any major problem, with any major inflection, when we hear some of the solutions, well, yeah, why wasn't that wrong already? Or why wasn't that done already? It's gobsmacking. So, and yeah, and you're always going to have, you're right, you're always going to have that percentage that is just never going to come on board. And, well, okay. You can't win everyone over, but I think it's our duty, to work together to make things right. It's been far too long. So, and as we do that, and as we advise clients, and just even work with each other, it's been interesting to watch a lot of this unfold as communications pros, right?
Yes.
How word choice matters, how messaging, and I don't mean messaging in a trite, empty way, but that it matters. Having someone who knows how things can be received, the words matter. So
the words, and then what's behind. I mean,
yes.
And this is a big shift. We are long past the days where we could put out pretty messaging that really felt genuine and that told a story and grabbed hearts and minds, but peek behind the curtain and everything else is out of sync. We are long past those days. That's not going to fly today. And if there's any message to communicators, it's check your house before you do anything. And so, I have said publicly that, in the early days of, this, after George Floyd's murder and the activism that was ignited as a result of that, where people were putting out statements about how Black Lives Matter to them, if I go to your website and I see nothing but lily white faces, I'm sorry, I'm not buying that Black lives really matter, because what you're saying to me is that you feel bad, but they don't matter enough for you to have diversity in your company. And for anyone so are you saying to me that there's no talented people of color that could be a part of your company or be a part of your executive team or on your board of directors? Because I don't buy that either. And neither do consumers.
Right.
We are smart enough now to really look into who you are as a company. And unfortunately, with social media, if you've ever done or said anything stupid, it's going to come out. And so, for communicators, I honestly, who we are as a profession. I honestly believe that this is a time of great challenge, but it's our biggest opportunity to really demonstrate value in brand new ways. And it's an exciting time from a professional perspective, because I feel like we're writing the script for the future. Yeah. We are writing a whole new template, and some of the things that I know that we as professionals have long advocated for, finally, we have power behind us to get people to make that change. Even if the change is, please hire counsel. There were organizations that sort of put that, to the last of their list, and now they're understanding the value of having professional counsel. So this is our moment. I feel like that. I feel like that as a person of color, and I feel like that as a PR pro, that 2020 has just been the worst.
But it can also turn out to be the best.
Representation.
Please get representation. 2020 needs to hire us.
2020 needs to hire us. Like, your brand needs serious work. However, it also has, opened up a whole new world of opportunity for us. And so I hope that people listening will seize that opportunity and not be afraid to step into these challenges and be part of rewriting, or I shouldn't say rewriting history, because that's wrong, but being a part of the history that we're making today.
Yeah,
like
moving
the things that we're doing today
forward.
are things that people are going to refer to in the future and say, this is how you do it.
Yeah, moving things forward. I think that's one way to make 2020 at least redeem itself.
Yeah, for sure. And God knows this year needs redemption.
Oh yeah. It's like we're all holding on till 2021 kicks in, and the calendar better pay attention and shift accordingly. But yeah, I mean, if we would leave you with anything, it's check your own heart, check your own mind, and just take heart in the fact that our skills are needed at this time to counsel and advise. So we welcome everyone to be part of being a part of it, being part of being constructive and coming to good onward continuing resolution. So we welcome your thoughts, and we hope you subscribe and share this episode if you've gotten any value out of it. And check us out at soloprpro.com. And until next time, thanks for listening to That Solo Life.